So first of all, thank you very much for the very kind invitation, and I think it's necessary to talk about crisis with this as a background, and especially about the one-quarter crisis. It's more like an adolescent, worrying about the coming death. But I think it also captures what is really happening, that the young generation in general feel kind of hopeless. And this happened to my students because every year I try to do a survey with my 18 to 23 years old student to ask them about what they think about future. And the reply, the answer is well, in Germany, in Netherlands, in Hong Kong, everywhere, and the answer is unfortunately the same, miserable. But I feel very difficult to address this because the subject we are approaching is very, very, very big. And I remember 2 years ago, I was asked by the Wired magazine, Japan, to comment on what is going to arrive in 2050. So it's not one quarter, but half, mid-age. And because they believe that what is happening or what has happened in the past decades is going to determine, especially in technological developments, is going to determine what is going to happen in the next 30 years. So they asked the question, what is going to happen in 2050? I don't know if we can think about this at all, and even if we could have some prediction, I'm not sure at all if we are able to verify it in 2050 because of the instability and uncertainty we are confronting. So I feel very hard to address this question, 2050, but also at this moment of the one quarter crisis we have already been experiencing. We are aware that there is going to be an imminent war, a third world war, where that was already pronounced by Donald Trump, nuclear meltdown, ecological crisis, AI apocalypse. And with this in mind, how are we going to imagine the 2050 to come? It's not that we don't have imagination. We can have imagination of one day waking up on Mars and we find ourselves among the stars, as Elon Musk so said in his website. Or we can have also, to imagine that we will be immortal by 2050, as Ray Kurzweil said, again and again. Last week I also read again that by 2050 we'll be immortal. So it's not that we don't have imagination, we have. But still, I think that if we want to believe in that, we need to be very optimistic, and such an optimism doesn't really lead anywhere. So with this crisis already happened in the first quarter of the 21st century, how are we going to respond to it? In general, we have two ways to respond to it. One is let's decelerate. And I think this is, you can read from very famous, very popular books like Hamid Rosa and so on about deceleration. And also about degrowth, which has been gaining kind of momentum this year to associate degrowth with the Marxist projects of realizing communism. However, the problem is that who is going to degrow? Which country is going to degrow? So given that some countries are going to degrow and some countries are not going to degrow, like the USA, for example, that means they're going to keep the hegemony, and that means no one is going to degrow. We are in a deadlock logic. If you want to, it's a good, it's right. I think it's correct to think that we should degrow, but who is going to degrow? And if we still think in terms of the nation state, of the sovereign state, I'm not sure who will do it. So I don't see this is a deceleration or degrowth. I'm not saying that they're wrong. I think they're correct, but I'm not sure who, if this is going to happen at all. The other option is that let's accelerate. Let's speed up, and maybe if we speed up, we are going to maybe we'll be free. With full automation, that we can all come here to enjoy skiing. We don't need to work. And I think this has been promised to us in the past decade. But is this going to happen? In our daily life, we know that this is not going to happen, but from the media, the media always talk about mass unemployment is going to arrive because of AI. A couple of years ago, I was very interested in the phenomenon because since 2015, China has the policy to automatize all the factories in the Guangdong area, and the slogan was to replace human with machines. I was very curious to know what happens to these people who become unemployed. If all the factories are automatized, many people must become unemployed. So what do they do? Where are they? Apparently, they're not enjoying retirement. They don't have this benefit. I'm not a sociologist, so I don't have data. So I tried to contact some sociologists who were doing field work on that. And the answer I got is that there is no mass unemployment. It's not an issue. So where are these people? Where are these people who are replaced by machines? When the economists told us that we are going to be replaced by machines, they assume that our economy is static. It doesn't change. But actually, our economy is dynamic. That means new industry emerge. So, for example, those who are kicked out of the factories, they are very quickly absorbed by Uber, by food delivery. So they become absorbed by platforms, and actually no one employed. But what happened to them? This kind of platform also promise flexible work. You don't need to be in the office from 9 to 5. But it's another kind of exploitation that is getting worse and worse. So let me give you an example. If some of the data reviewed by some food delivery platforms, let's say in 2017, the time needed to deliver food for a distance of 3 kilometers, it was 38 minutes. The year after, 30 minutes, and that decreased all the time. So, but that means you are controlled by algorithms. You are controlled by these platforms. And what you can do is to use your body to compensate for the demand of efficiency and speed. So what is in front of us? Two options: acceleration, deceleration. As I try to suggest to you, are not options. These are not really options. These are ideologies. And the acceleration, ideology is now taken up by Donald Trump. If you remember that what Donald Trump said on the day where he said many things on the day of inauguration, but one thing he said is that he's going to free AI from any barriers. And he's going to accelerate, and that's why he got so much support from Silicon Valley. So where are we going? If these two are not options, but at the same time we see that there's the way our society is moving towards, the way the nation states, the sovereign states are moving towards, are not really providing us any alternatives. We are in a global geopolitical competition for efficiency, for speed. Now, after ChatGPT, you have a DeepSeek in China. So every country is developing their so-called sovereign AI. We are all moving towards efficiency, towards speed, towards collapse in the future. And you might remember that in 2017, that was on 1st of September 2017, when Putin gave the speech to the school children in Russia. He said, whoever leads in AI will dominate the world. Whoever leads in AI will dominate the world. And I'm afraid that this is really happening today. We are in such a competition towards a kind of imaginary artificial general intelligence, which I don't think will exist, but it's a fantasy that we are moving towards. And for me, it is a sign of apocalypse. Oh, there's timer, I didn't know. But we have enough time. So we are in the situation. We're in the situation that we are moving towards, I think, wars, and this tendency was already said, I think, more than 100 years ago. And I want to recall one speech by the French philosopher Henri Bergson in 1914, when he was elected as the president of the, I think, Académie Française de la Philosophie des Morales in 1914. He was, the First World War just happened. And the speech was about the war that just happened. Normally today when we look back at the First World War, we thought that it was basically fundamentally driven by economic problems and power struggles. But Bergson's analysis was completely different. He said, no, it was not primarily the economical factors. He believed that it was the technological factor. And this technological factor is the following. He believed that in the 19th century, there was a strong tendency of mechanization. And Germany was the leading country in mechanizing everything, from state administration to education and so on. That was followed by many other European countries. And this process produced two effects. One is that in the 19th century, the amount of artifacts, the amount of machines we produced are so huge that our human soul is no longer to cooperate with these machines. Because for Bergson, a machine is not simply something external to us, but rather a machine is our artificial organ. So suddenly we have an expansion of organs, and we don't know how to deal with it. But isn't this what we are confronting today regarding AI? We are astonished by AI, we are amazed by it, and at the same time we are frightened by it. We don't know what to do. Even the government don't know what to do. They wrongly believe that they can use AI to replace university. And that's why they're cutting fundings and replacing teachers. It's completely nonsense. It's happening. So our soul cannot accommodate these machines. The second effect is that this form of mechanization is producing a uniformity. It's producing a uniform technology, mechanization that focuses on efficiency and so on and so forth. And this uniformity is not leading us anywhere than a confrontation that has to be resolved by wars. Now, today we are in a very similar situation with AI development, especially when the state is going to politicize AI development. And we are going to have, basically we are competing towards the realization of a fake artificial general intelligence. So basically this is unfortunately what is happening now, and how are we going to confront this situation? we need a radical change in terms of our relation and our understanding of technologies. We need to think of ways to, thinkings or ways that offer us options other than simply acceleration or deceleration that are very much present by some very obvious ideology. So I would like to propose something else, even though I don't have enough time, but I will briefly introduce what I think, what I propose. Firstly, I think that we are in a situation that is no longer global, as Philip says, and that the globalization that we have been enjoying in the past, after the fall of the Berlin Wall is no longer. But we must recognize that we are in a new situation. That means I could call it a planetary condition. Planetary in the sense that we need to realize that we are, inhabiting this earth with other people, from different cultures, but also the non-human beings, plants, animals, and so on, and so on. So, and this planetary condition must be something we should put prior to the sovereign state. We cannot think from the sovereign. Now the sovereign state says, don't think from the perspective of globalization. It's finished, and let's return to the nation state. And we should respond, said, no, that's not the right way. I mean, we cannot eliminate the sovereign states, of course, because such as we cannot eliminate the family and the civil society. But however, we can think from a different perspective, and that is the planetary perspective. Second, I would like to propose a new matrix to think about this. And this matrix consists of 3 elements. First, biodiversity. Second, nudiversity, N-O-O. It comes from the Greek word nous, the diversity of thinking, and that refers to one of my arguments with a Jesuit, a very important Jesuit called Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, who developed the theory of the noosphere. So the second, nudiversity, diversity of thinking. And thirdly, technodiversity, the diversity of technology. And by diversity, technodiversity, I'm speaking against the uniformity that Bergson analyzed as one of the causes of the First World War. So why this matrix at all? Because I believe that biodiversity, for the question of biodiversity, it's not that we single out an area and we call it nature and we protect it as it is something objective existing outside of us. Because we are living with different species, we are living together. This is not a reality, an objective reality separated from us. And the biodiversity has been very much harmed by the uniformity of thinking and the uniformity of technology. This is very obvious when we think of the example of the use of pesticide. Pesticides target all insects because they target at the chemical and biological structure of the insect. They are effective everywhere. But the effect they produce in different localities varies significantly. Some places it works, some places it leads to catastrophe. So the uniformity of technology is also a problem, imposes a great problem to biodiversity. So what I'm saying is that biodiversity, nudiversity are more and more dependent on technodiversity that maintain our different way of thinking, our different way of being in the world, but also our different form of life, being with humans and non-humans. Now, I cannot explain here how to we realize techno-diversity, because this is a project that I've been working in the more than a decade, that I try to look into history, look into the past, to understand different traditions, different thinking of technologies, be that in China or in the Amazon and so on. And I was very surprised that this idea of techno-diversity has a lot of resonance in Latin America, where more than in China, because China is too much modernized, and they believe that modernization is always on the way out of the crisis. And but also to look into the developments of technology, for example, the epistemological problems that are not discussed in computer science. I have because we have a program where I actually, let me cut it short. I was very trained as a computer scientist, and I never learned the word epistemology, during my studies. But there is epistemological foundation of computation. Every design demands epistemological foundation. And when you change this foundation, naturally you completely change the design of the software and of technology. So I think it's time up now. So I was just okay. So I will finish as quickly as I can. So if we change the epistemological foundation, naturally we can change completely the design of this software. And that was one example is a project that I did in France around 2011, 2012 to develop a new type of social media different from Facebook. And it was a project that I worked with some computer scientists. By saying so, I just want to say that the agenda for technodiversity, for biodiversity, for neurodiversity is realizable, but it will demand a new approach to technology. And the infrastructure that we have now at universities is not sufficient to provide it. I've been at the university most of my life, and as a professor, I have to confront many problems at the university, but I tend to believe less and less that something extraordinary is going to take place. However, we must have hope, and we must work on that. And in this context, I think that our institutes, our schools, where we might find more flexibility to work on this subject and to work on experiments and so. So I hope that this could be an opening for us to exchange in the next days. So I end here. Thank you very much for your attention.